Hey, Union Baptist family, a little change of scenery here. I'm in my office. Before we get into the lesson, there are just a few things I want to show you real quick, and I'm going to go ahead and flip over to my computer. Okay, so there are a couple things I wanted to show you. If you have not seen our church website, I just wanted to quickly pull it up and let you see how you get there. We are Union Baptist Church 10 Mile, so it's ubc10mile.com. That simple, just to enter. And here we have our official church website. As you know, I am a couple weeks delayed with the Genesis Bible study. I wanted to show you this has been a project of mine. Our homepage has our most recent service, and here I'll scroll down for you. Every Sunday we're going to be uploading it. Also, the Bible study is going to be on here as well, and honestly, any other events that we have in the future, you'll be able to find them on our website. A quick about section kind of tells you who we are, where we're located, and especially, even more important, a map, because we are out in the middle of nowhere. So if we're ever telling people, hey, please come visit our church, and you just want to be able to show them who we are and what we're about, ubc10mile.com is all you got to tell them. Now, another initiative that Mark Cody and I have worked on, and Mark being on the financial side and then me being on the more technical side, getting it implemented into our website, is the Give button. Now, this is something that I'm the most excited about, I think. I'm sure it's more of a generational thing. But if you hit Give, we now have the ability to tithe online. This is huge for me, and I'm sure even just as huge for those of us who are younger. I do not carry a checkbook with me, and I don't carry cash with me. So having another way that I can tithe to our church is going to be huge for my wife and I. As you can see, it is extremely simple. Just your name and email address. That way it notifies you that everything was submitted. You can link a debit card, a credit card, or even to your bank. Another thing that I do want to point out is there's this box here that's called Cover Fees. So with each transaction that takes place on here, because we have the ability to do this, we go through a company called Tithely. They've got to make their money too, because this is a service, an option that they've provided for us. I think that their transaction fee is like 2% per tithe. So what this gives us the option to do is if we check this, we as the giver are able to cover the fee. And again, I think it was like 2%. So it's very small. So that way it does not have to come out of our church's pocket. So I just really wanted to show everybody that we are a small church, but we are in the 21st century. And this is very exciting. And also, find us on Facebook. You click on here, and it directly takes you to our Union Baptist Church Facebook page. So it is going to be an awesome tool to have. I'm going to be continually working on it and hopefully improving it in the future. But we are up and running. So I just wanted to take the time to show you all that. Then for a final update, this past weekend at the church, Tracy, Cody, and Ricky, big shout out to y'all. Thank you so much for the help. We got a security camera system installed at our church. So the church is pretty much unoccupied right now. Not a lot going on right there. So it's a good way for us to protect our church. And also, once we are all back in the building, protect all of us as well. So that was a huge initiative, and again, thank you, Tracy, Ricky, and Cody for that. All right, so without further ado, go ahead and catch up on Genesis chapter 42. After, we'll dive right in. So go ahead and pause the video and read Genesis chapter 42. All right, so let's dive in. So 1 through 4. When Jacob saw that there was grain in Egypt, Jacob said to his sons, "Why do you look at one another?" And he said, "Indeed, I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down to that place and buy for us there, that we may live and not die." So Joseph's 10 brothers went down to buy grain in Egypt, but Jacob did not send Joseph's brother Benjamin with his brothers, for he said, lest some calamity befall him. The first thing it says is, why do you look at one another? And after reading more into what commentators were saying, this wasn't just the brothers twiddling their thumbs during not pandemic, we're in a pandemic, a famine. And it says, one of the commenters said, the father has noted the look of perplexity on his sons' faces. Literally meaning to look questioningly one at the other. Now, as brothers who have sold Joseph into slavery, into Egypt, I'm sure just the name Egypt probably would send a chill down your spine from the remorsefulness that you feel and from the guilt, and just words by association would immediately bring about the brothers all going, "Oh, Egypt, we're familiar with that place. Our brothers there in slavery." And so again, this is a terrible secret these brothers have been carrying for 20 years. And this is a continuation in the story of this secret becoming more brought forth in their lives and them having to actually face it, which we'll see further on. So 5 through 6. And the sons of Israel went to buy grain among those who journeyed, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. Now Joseph was governor of the land, and it was he who sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed before him with their faces to the earth. So we know from the previous chapter that Joseph was put in charge of everything. He is in charge of how Egypt handles the famine, how Egypt loans and gives out grain to the families. So of course, he is going to come in contact with anybody who needs access to the grain, aka his brothers. So it says that the brothers came and bowed down before him with their faces to the earth. So if you remember in Genesis 37, 5 through 8, I'm going to read it right now. Joseph had a dream, and remember this is the beginning of Joseph. He had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. And he said to them, "Listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it." And his brother said to them, "Do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us?" And they hated him all the more because of this dream. Okay, so that was foreshadowing into the future. And we are seeing this dream come to life. In the dream that he had, it was grain and all the brothers bowing down to him. Well, in the midst of this famine, grain is the main resource that's needed, and here they are bowing down to him. So we are already seeing Genesis 37, 5 through 8 being fulfilled in chapter 42, and that's awesome. So 7 through 8. Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, but he acted as a stranger to them and spoke roughly to them. Then he said to them, "Where do you come from?" And they said, "From the land of Canaan to buy food." So Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. Okay, it's been 20 years since his brothers have seen him, and they don't recognize him, and that's, I can understand that. But we also have to remember that Joseph, being a Hebrew man, has transitioned to this Egyptian culture. to the point where he's even speaking Egyptian. He's speaking the language. He's not speaking in Hebrew to them. So we actually learn further in the chapter that Joseph is using a translator, which is going to further reinforce that he is a stranger to them. He's not speaking in Hebrew. He is speaking Egyptian to them, but he's using a translator to do it all. So Joseph's brothers talk to him, and he speaks to his translator, and that's how the communication pathway is going. And so he acts as a stranger to them. Now, remember, in Genesis 41:38, see, we're going to see a lot of kind of weird things in this chapter with how not only he treats them, but how he handles this entire situation. But we learn in Genesis 41:38, well, we didn't learn it, we know this, but he is a man filled with the Spirit of God. Okay, this is coming from Pharaoh, noticing that Joseph is Spirit-led. So I believe that we can trust that in the actions that are forthcoming, that Joseph is being led by the Holy Spirit, and that this is God's divine plan for his brothers' lives, that he's working on their hearts in ways that we might look at it and go, I wouldn't do it that way. Well, we're not God. God has a specific way that he's going to break down the brothers. He's going to break down their hearts, and he's going to work on repairing this relationship. And we're going to see that further as we go. So 9 through 17. Then Joseph remembered the dreams which he had dreamed about them, and said to them, You are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land. And they said to him, No, my lord, but your servants have come to buy food. We are all one man's sons. We are honest men. Yeah, right. Your servants are not spies. But he said to them, No, but you have come to see the nakedness of the land. And they said, Your servants are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And in fact, the youngest is with our father today, and one is no more. That one being Joseph that they're referencing. Again, telling a lie. But Joseph said to them, It is as I spoke to you, saying, You are spies. In this manner you shall be tested. By the life of Pharaoh, you shall not leave this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of you, and let him bring your brother, and you shall be kept in prison, that your words may be tested to see whether there is any truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh, surely you are spies. So he put them all together in prison for 3 days. And so Joseph, again, he's not playing games with his brothers. God recalled the dreams to his mind and is using Joseph as an instrument for the correction and restoration of the brothers. This is all God's plan. And they mentioned that one is no more. That's a lie. They didn't kill him. If they would have killed him, he would have been no more. No, they sold Joseph off into slavery. So they're lying about him here. And if you remember, the youngest brother is Benjamin. Well, that's Joseph's full blood brother, okay? Same mom and dad. So I think that's one of the main reasons that Joseph is saying, I need to see my youngest brother, because he didn't betray me, and he and I both share the same flesh. So 18 through 20. Then Joseph said to them the third day, so 3 days passed, Do this and live, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers be confined to your prison house. But you go and carry grain for the famine of your houses, and bring your youngest brother to me, so your words will be verified, and you shall not die. And they did so. So 3 days in this Egyptian prison. And I think these 3 days are a time for them to reflect and to be humbled. So I think this 3 days was necessary for this process. And so he's telling them that, hey, you know, go back home, but and I'll give you the food and everything, but you got to bring back Benjamin. Except one of you is going to stay behind. And we end up being revealed who that is in the next chapter, in the next verses. So 21 through 24. Then they said to one another, "We are truly guilty concerning our brother, for we saw the anguish of his soul when he pleaded with us, and we would not hear. Therefore this distress has come upon us." And Reuben answered them, saying, "Did I not speak to you, saying, 'Do not sin against the boy,' and would you not listen? Therefore, behold, his blood is now required of us." But they did not know that Joseph understood them, for he spoke to them through an interpreter. And he turned himself away from them and wept. Then he returned to them again and talked with them. And he took Simon from them and bound him before their eyes. So the brothers are saying that they are truly guilty concerning their brother. Okay, so it's this guilty conscience. Their guilty conscience has told them that this complicated mess is due to the way they treated Joseph in the past. Now, while nothing is directly tied to that, this guilt has been weighing on them, that they're seeing this unfortunate situation, and they're directly linking it to their sin against Joseph. That's how prominent this sin has been in their lives for these 20 years. It's like every bad thing happening, they're going to go, "Oh, it's because we sold our brother off into slavery." And again, when we talked earlier, I said that Joseph was using an interpreter to speak to them. It's the verse where I pulled that from. So they're revealing their sins. The brothers are revealing this sin amongst all of them, not realizing that Joseph is in there and can understand Hebrew, fully understands. And this has got to absolutely be gut-wrenching for Joseph to hear the turmoil and the guilt that his brothers still hold on to, and rightfully so that they do. And so he takes Simon and he bounds him and he keeps them and he sends them off. So then Joseph gave a command to fill their sacks with grain, to restore every man's money to his sack, and to give them provisions for the journey. Thus he did for them. So they loaded their donkeys with the grain and departed from there. So this is a command from Joseph. Again, he's a spirit-filled man. And he restores every brother's sack with money. So the grain, I'm sure, was a heavy fee. And for him to give it away for free and not require payment to his brothers who conspired to kill him but then sold him off into slavery, he's already treating them with grace. He's already treating them as if he has forgiven them. And that's huge, because if I was in Joseph's position, I'm going to be honest, I would have just stuck them in jail and left them there. Say, "All right, this is what you get." But thank goodness, this is why God did not put me in that position. This is why God chose Joseph. And he even gives them provisions for their journey. So he's taking care of them. So 27 through 28. But as one of them opened his sack, again, they didn't know that he did all this, at least with the money. So as one of them opened his sack to give his donkey feed at the encampment, he saw his money, and there it was in the mouth of his sack. So he said to his brothers, "My money has been restored, and there it is in my sack." Then their hearts failed them, and they were afraid, saying to one another, "What is this that God has done to us?" So again, this was a tremendous shock for them to have their money returned. And it was a test, not from Joseph, but from God. What would they do with the money? And what would be revealed about their heart? Would they try to hide it? Would they try to lie about it? Would they think they deserved it? And so it says their hearts failed them and that they were afraid. So it's kind of weird, because it's as if they had just won the lottery, but they weren't happy at all. They were afraid. They were afraid that their hearts failed them. And so they say,
what is this that God has done to us? So their conscience was under such great weight and bondage that they even regarded something good as punishment, thinking, okay, what's going to happen because we have all our money back. This isn't good. We did not pay for everything. Or are we being tested? Are we being framed? So this was a good thing, but that's how much weight of a guilty conscience had brought upon them. So 29 through 34. Then they went to Jacob their father in the land of Canaan and told him all that had happened to them, saying, the man who is Lord of the land spoke roughly to us and took us for spies of the country. But we said to him, we are honest men, we are not spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of our father, one is no more. And the youngest is with our father this day in the land of Canaan. Then the man, the Lord of the country, said to us, by this I will know that you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers here with me. Take food for the famine of your households and be gone. And bring your youngest brother to me. So I shall know that you are not spies, but that you are honest men. I will grant your brother to you, and you may trade in the land. So they're heading back to their father, to Jacob. And that had been a very interesting journey for them, for a couple days' journey to have traveled. You know, how do we explain that Simon's not with us? And how do we explain that we have both the grain and the money back? And then how do we explain that we have to go back to Egypt, but with Benjamin, you know, our father's favorite son at this point? And so again, they tell him that they recoup the entire story to their father, and they tell him all that has happened. So verse 35, then it happened as they emptied their sacks that surprisingly each man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when they and their father saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. So originally it was only one sack that the brother had opened whenever they were feeding the donkeys. So then for them to realize that, oh my goodness, we all have our money and we all have this grain. What is going on? Not looking at it as a blessing, not jumping up and down with joy, but being afraid of their lives, thinking, okay, either we've messed up or we've been framed or we're being tested. And to top it all off, they were being accused of being spies. So this is nothing but trouble. So 36. And Jacob their father said to them, you have bereaved me. Joseph is no more. Simon is no more. You want to take Benjamin. All these things are against me. And so Jacob is nothing but sad news, and rightfully so. I mean, he's lost Joseph, which has been made a huge negative impact on his life the past 20 years, because we know that was his favorite son, and one who he had such close ties to. And so now Simon is not with them, and now they're wanting to take Benjamin. And I'm sure this has all got to be very mind-boggling for Jacob to hear the story. What are my sons even telling me? Are they telling the truth? Because I already have some of a distrust for them anyways, because they're not my full flesh and blood like my favorites were, Joseph and Benjamin. And so this is a very unfortunate time for Jacob to be dealing with this. And so verse 37. Then Reuben spoke to his father, saying, kill my two sons if I do not bring him back to you. Put him in my hands, and I will bring him back to you. So Reuben, in a dramatic gesture, is willing to lay down the life of his two sons to give assurance to Jacob in his despair. 38. But he said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is left alone. If any calamity should befall him along the way in which you go, then you would bring down my gray hair with sorrow to the grave. So, I mean, Simon being pulled back, I guess Jacob really didn't think too much of Simon. All he could think about was Benjamin, his favorite son. And that, I mean, that's got to be very harsh reality for the brothers to see this favoritism. And so at this point, we're seeing Jacob not fully trusting God in this situation as he has done in the past. You know, God has been providing and taking care from the beginning of his family, and so for him to be untrusting it's just a hard reality to look at, but further reinforces us, humanity. How do we react when things get bad? We stop looking at what God has provided for us and how God has taken care of us and how many blessings God has restored and been able to give prosperity to us. And we sit in our own mess and we wallow in pity and neglect how wonderful God has been to us. So as much as I want to slap Jacob and, get out of it, open up your eyes, see what's going on, I can't, because I do the exact same thing. So stay tuned for next week, and we'll be in Genesis chapter 43. Thank you.